In the UFC, we have seen the rise of superstars like GSP, Anderson Silva, and Ronda Rousey. They have incredible winning streaks, and at a certain point it looks as if no one can stop them. But the fight game is brutal, and one wrong move can result in your face getting beaten to a pulp. Here are the top 10 biggest upsets in UFC history. 10. Matt Serra vs. GSP. Coming into this fight, GSP was on a 6-fight win streak and had beaten Matt Hughes in their rematch, the only man he had ever lost to. He looked unstoppable and was the most dominant fighter the UFC had ever seen. On the other hand, Matt Serra was 5-4 since signing with the UFC and only got a chance at a title shot because he won Season 4 of The Ultimate Fighter, and the winners were entitled to a shot at the belt. About halfway through the first round, Matt Serra landed a punch flush on GSP's chin and wobbled him. Here's what happened next.
Look at those two fights. That's a Serra's doing a better. Oh, Serra down again. Serra's trying to upset Serra.
Good lord. He's hurt him 3 times in the last 60 seconds.
9. TJ Dillashaw vs. Renan Barão. A lot of people forget that Renan Barão was on a 33-fight win streak before he faced off against TJ Dillashaw. The last time Renan Barão had lost was in 2005, and it looked like nobody in the bantamweight division could touch him. The first round was pretty uneventful, with both fighters just feeling each other out until TJ landed a haymaker on Barão and sent him to the ground. Barão managed to survive the rest of the round, but the tone had already been set. Dillashaw dominated the rest of the fight, but Renan Barão managed to hold on until the 5th round, where a perfectly timed head kick stunned him and Dillashaw got the finish.
Look at him finish his fight. TJ Dillashaw. Unbelievable. Here it is all over.
8. Randy Couture vs. Chuck Liddell. Before this fight, Chuck the Iceman Liddell was on a 9-fight win streak and overall 11-1 in his professional career. His next fight was supposed to be for the light heavyweight championship, but Tito Ortiz refused to defend his title against Liddell, citing a number of excuses as to why he couldn't fight. So, instead of fighting Tito, the UFC created an interim light heavyweight title to be fought for at the UFC 43. They also decided to have Randy Couture move from heavyweight to light heavyweight and face Chuck Liddell. The problem with this being that Randy the Natural Couture was already 38 years old and on a 2-fight losing streak. Many people thought that Couture was pretty much done with his career as a fighter and looked at him as just a stepping stone for Chuck Liddell to get a shot at the light heavyweight title. Through much of the first round, it seemed like they were evenly matched, but then Couture began taking Liddell down, and it was clear who was more skilled on the ground. After a couple rounds, Randy Couture began taking Chuck Liddell down at will, and finally gained full mount and forced a stoppage.
Can he finish Chuck Liddell? Here in round 3.
Chuck is in grave danger of being stopped here.
Randy Couture on Chuck Liddell. He's bringing it. He's continuing to bring it. John McCarthy standing closely. Couture trying to stop this fight.
Randy Couture is going to stop Chuck Liddell.
Oh, it's over.
7. Frankie Edgar vs. BJ Penn. Back in 2010, BJ Penn was one of the most dominant lightweights the UFC had ever seen. He was on a 9-fight win streak that spanned over 8 years in the division, his only loss being to Jens Pulver back in 2002. Frankie Edgar had only one loss to Gray Maynard, but he was not known as the tough and durable fighter he is today. Suffice it to say that Frankie Edgar was a huge underdog coming into the fight and pulled off one of the biggest upsets in UFC history. And even though Frankie Edgar won the fight in the judges' minds, it was very, very close. Many people thought BJ Penn was the victor, so the UFC scheduled an immediate rematch, which Edgar won handily. 6. BJ Penn vs. Matt Hughes. 6 years before his fight with Frankie Edgar, BJ Penn and Cal Uno fought to a draw in the lightweight division. He left for K1 and beat Takanori Gomi before returning to the UFC to challenge Matt Hughes for the welterweight title. At this time, Matt Hughes was on a 13-fight win streak, and nobody could survive his power in wrestling. He had already defended the belt 5 times, and out of his last 13 wins, only 2 went to a decision. Early in the first round, they went to the ground and BJ Penn dominated. Matt Hughes was on his back for the majority of the round until BJ Penn eventually got into full mount, spelling disaster for Hughes.
Seconds.
This is a bad spot for Matt Hughes.
Could we have ourselves an upset in the making?
This is worst case scenario for Matt Hughes. BJ on top of him, punching him from his back. BJ has got incredible back control.
BJ looking for the choke.
He's got the choke. He's down.
5. Chris Weidman versus Anderson Silva. Everyone knows about this fight because Anderson Silva is probably the greatest pound-for-pound MMA fighter ever in the UFC. He held a 16-fight win streak, and it seemed like nobody even had a chance at beating him. In comes Chris All-American Weidman, who was undefeated at the time, but nowhere near the track record of Silva. In spite of this, Weidman was supremely confident in his ability to defeat possibly one of the greatest fighters in UFC history. The first round was uneventful, with neither fighter being overly dominant. But come the second round, Silva got a little too cocky, put his hands down, and relied on head movement to dodge Weidman's strikes. Anderson probably thought he was invincible, which is understandable given a 16-fight win streak, but boy oh boy was he so very wrong. 4. Fabricio Werdum versus Fedor Emelianenko. So this fight actually happened in Strikeforce, but it was such a mind-blowing upset that I had to put it in here. Fedor Emelianenko was on a 27-fight win streak that spanned over 8 years. He was the most dominant heavyweight fighter ever, and many people consider him to be the greatest MMA fighter of all time. This especially rings true when you consider that heavyweights are by far the heaviest hitters, and even the best in the division suffer losses. Fabricio Werdum coming into this fight had a 13-4 record, but wasn't seen as that much of a threat to Fedor. Early in the fight, Fedor hit Werdum with a couple of heavy hits which sent him to the ground. While attempting to ground and pound, Fedor played right into Fabricio Werdum's hand, as he is a highly regarded Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Werdum caught Fedor with a triangle armbar and thereby ended his unstoppable 27-fight win streak.
He's almost got it locked. Here comes the triangle choke. Is deep in a triangle choke. Fedor is very deep. Werdum! It looks like he was going to tap there. He's got his arm straight. Oh! He's tapping!
3. Michael Bisping versus Luke Rockhold. Luke Rockhold had been on an absolute tear through the middleweight division, losing only to a juiced-up Vitor Belfort. He defeated Chris Weidman with ease and even dominated Michael Bisping during their first fight, which in retrospect probably contributed a lot to this upset. Michael Bisping took the fight on 17 days' notice when Chris Weidman got injured and nobody thought he had a chance, least of all Luke Rockhold. In the days leading up to UFC 199, Rockhold looked extremely cocky, and it seemed like he wasn't taking Bisping seriously at all. Even once the fight started, he looked way too relaxed and totally dismissive of the fact that Bisping could potentially hurt him. But halfway through the first round, Luke Rockhold overextended with a jab, and Bisping pounced on the opportunity. 2. Nate Diaz versus Conor McGregor. Without a doubt, Conor McGregor has had the fastest rise to fame of any UFC star. He talked like he was the best and then went out and backed it up. Conor went through the 145-pound division like a hot knife through butter, and at the end of his 7-fight win streak, he held the featherweight belt. It looked like the Notorious was unstoppable in the ring, and nobody could take that straight left and keep standing. Then in comes Nate Diaz, somebody who could hang with McGregor in the trash-talking department. Diaz took the fight on less than 2 weeks' notice when Rafael dos Anjos dropped out, and McGregor moved up from 155 to 170. During the first round, it looked as if this fight was no different, as McGregor's shots seemed to be slowing down Nate Diaz. But the one thing that Nate Diaz has been known for his whole career is his durability and his ability to take punches. Diaz came out even stronger in the second round despite his busted-up face, and McGregor started to slow down, most likely as a result of his fast weight gain. It all went downhill after this smooth 1-2 on McGregor's chin.
Got him with the good one there. He tagged him. He hurt him. He hurt him with that left. And he's Connor's in serious trouble. 1 minute on the clock. Diaz gets the mouth. My goodness. Now he's got the back. That's it. He's got the chain.
1. Holly Holm vs. Ronda Rousey. Coming in at number 1 on our list is the Ronda Rousey vs. Holly Holm fight. Ronda Rousey had never taken a single loss in her career, and most of her wins were done in such a dominating fashion that many people thought of her as the baddest woman on the planet. She was getting movie deals left and right from series such as The Expendables and The Fast and the Furious. Holly Holm was also undefeated and a boxing champion, but largely untested in the octagon. In previous fights, Rousey had won simply through overpowering her opponent. If you look back, it wasn't done through skill or tactic, it just came down to the fact that Ronda Rousey could impose her will on them with ease. Early on in the fight, it was clear that Rousey couldn't impose her will on Holly Holm like she did with the other fighters. Holly Holm encountered with hard punches and knees, and at the end of the first round, Ronda Rousey was visibly exhausted. Things got even worse for Rousey in the second round, and it seemed like nothing she tried was working.
Holly looking to finish. Holly Holm is the new UFC bantamweight champion of the world.
Oh my God.
So there you have it, our 10 greatest upsets in UFC history. And if you liked the video, maybe like or subscribe and leave a comment in the comments section. Who do you think was completely unstoppable until they got their face bashed in? Well, we will see you next time.